おごりが過ぎるぞ、Ukitake。最初から誰も天に立ってなどいない。君も僕も神すら。
That exchange between Ukitake and Aizen runs deeper than you might think. Aizen was not merely referring to Ukitake, but also the Mimi Hagi within him. Mimi Hagi, open the power of your eye lying in my organs. Forsake my organs and open it. Jushiro Ukitake should have died at the age of 3, stricken with a disease which caused his lungs to waste away. After the doctor had given up on Ukitake's situation, his parents brought him to the dwelling place of the enshrined right arm of the Soul King and prayed for Mimi Hagi-sama to save their child. And after Ukitake's lung was offered to the Mimi Hagi, his condition stagnated as its new host. And from here, he would not only survive, but would also go on to become a captain of the Gote 13. A former student of the late Genryusai Yamamoto, alongside Shunsui Kiraku, Ukitake was described as possessing transcendent fighting ability. In other words, in overall combat ability, no one in their class could match them. Furthermore, he was seen as possessing similar combat ability to Kiraku. Their spiritual pressures were described as superior to that of their classmates and the students who came before them. In combat power, Ukitake is portrayed as relative to Shunsui, with slightly higher overall intelligence and lower physical stats, more than likely owing to his illness. Furthermore, he was portrayed as matching Shunsui's flash step speed, as they both seemed to land the same time as they were being chased by Genryusai. Standing up to the old man's spanking, they would both display what was called dual wield Zanpakuto. And since we're here, I'll explain the case of their dual wielding. In the case of Shunsui's Katen Kyokotsu, Katen, the grown woman, created Kyokotsu, the younger one, to hide Nanao Isei's Zanpakuto, whilst Ukitake's dual wielding was likely owing to Mimi Hagi's influence. Following their scuffle with Genryusai, their conditions also seemed very similar, and provided his sickness doesn't take over, he generally fights on par with Shunsui. Ukitake's Shikai, the Sogi no Kotowari, can absorb the opponent's power in one blade, amplify its speed and pressure with the talismans, before releasing a faster and harder version of their attack. And despite Ukitake's Bankai being unknown, although Shunsui might know what it is, he does possess another form, Divine Vow or God's Sworn, kamikake. Following the activation of kamikake, an odd shadow looms behind Ukitake. However, the power he unveiled after this event was tremendous. It was explained that the spiritual power that Ukitake could release into the orb to assist the opening of the gate to Royal Palace vastly surpassed the power levels of all the characters in the room in their current states. His base power level greatly surpassed that of a base Rukia and Renji, even after their Royal Palace training. This would also apply to a Kisuke Urahara and an eye patch Kenpachi, after he had regained his past strength by defeating Unohana. Kenpachi with his eye patch on could force Gerard Valkyrie in giant form to keep his shield up, after demonstrating enough spiritual power to cut through the giant's arm. This Gerard Valkyrie was the same titan who could push back Byakuya's base Bankai form with his bare hand, and was so massive and powerful that the captain's spiritual pressures were tiny compared to him. His colossal reishi composition dictates an insane level of spiritual pressure. And still, Ukitake would take this even further. Calling upon the one-eyed god Mimi Hagi in his flesh, he planned to take the place of the Soul King following the Soul King's death. However, this was not the only time that Mimi Hagi was described as being worthy of standing in the Soul King's place, as Aizen's declaration to Ukitake was with the understanding that Ukitake had the right to stand in heaven. By offering his organs over to Mimi Hagi, he became the Soul King's flesh, quite literally the right hand of God. Even the likes of Tokunara Tsuneyashiro feared that angering Ukitake might incite Mimi Hagi to intervene, describing him as the flesh of the Soul King. And after flashing up to Royal Palace at a tremendous speed, far surpassing Ichigo's travel speed as he journeyed to Soul Society from his Royal Palace training, Yuha declared that Mimi Hagi's immunity to his Almighty's precognition signified Mimi Hagi's current state as the Soul King. Furthermore, Mimi Hagi didn't simply jump to Royal Palace, it simply extended itself over the vast distance. And similar to Gerard Valkyrie, Mimi Hagi is a reishi construct. Imagine the amount of reishi particles and reiatsu which would constitute a body of that size. Furthermore, not only does he possess the power to use darkness defensively and offensively, but he can also consume other beings into itself. Before taking Mimi Hagi's power for himself, Yuha also stated that Mimi Hagi has the power to see the future, and perhaps the greatest power of all, the power of stagnation. While the left arm Pernida governs evolution or progress, the right arm of the Soul King governs stillness. This stillness is so strong that he was able to stagnate the body of the Soul King, which contains so much power that it caused Yuha Baha to collapse. The mere presence oozing from it, creating living creatures which were called unstoppable by Hushwalt. And after consuming the Reio's body, Yuha declared that the power contained in said body was excessive, a power which could passively stabilize the Soul Society, and effortlessly lift the Bandan Reich up to Royal Palace for reconstruction. Now that Ukitake is in hell form, who knows what kind of powers he might possess.